right now, Todd, are pretty hard to really. We're still early. We're only in January, so we got a long way to go. But I think Love, Eason, and Fromm, any one of those three could end up as the fourth quarterback off the board.
Todd, can you put your finger on where we came from, where the talk was after his freshman year? We said this is a possible 1-1 to where he is now, where he's at least in the first round conversation, but he's a likelier night 2 pick. Kind of like track his trajectory a little bit for fans that kind of don't realize where he was to where he is now.
Well, for most of the first year, he was just filling in for Eason, but was playing well enough to keep that team on the rails. And then they got to the basically the end portion of the year when they needed him to play well. And even though things didn't work out perfectly, he played in the bigger games, in my opinion. And then his second year, I thought he was really good, like really good. And even in the games that they lost, if you go back and actually study the tape, the balls on target that were dropped and guys just not in the right position and getting the ball out under pressure and little things that don't show up in the statistics, I thought he was heading towards the first round. He didn't play that well this year, but look at all they lost. And they had 3 injuries along the offensive line during the year. The transfer wide receiver from Miami got injured. And once that happened, they just didn't have anything left, right? I mean, they had a bunch of freshmen, some talented guys, but who does he trust? And a quarterback like that, it's kind of like Brady at this point in his career. He's got to be able to trust the guys where they're going rather than be able to just drive the ball down the field, because that's not Fromm. And some guys are they just don't like him because he's limited. And I know a bunch of people who think that he's just not going to succeed, and at best he's a backup. I think if he's put in the right situation, if he were to get with, I don't know, the Saints or a team in the NFC South and where you're playing in domes and good weather, sorts of things, I think he has a chance to be a solid to good starter. But he was one of, if not the most impressive players I've met with all season long in terms of how hard he works and his knowledge of the game. So you're getting that. But if you're worried about physical limitations, he's not for you.
Yeah. Todd, he when we do comps, and we're all into comps, the easiest comp in this draft is Jake Fromm to Andy Dalton. And I think from a competitiveness, leadership, smarts, size,
and if Andy Dalton was playing with the Saints, then Andy Dalton would have a lot more success, is my guess.
Yeah, and Andy Dalton, who knows where he'll be playing now if Bengals trade him. But Andy Dalton, Jake Fromm, and you mentioned the losses, 95% of his receptions and touchdowns, all of his touchdowns were gone. You think about Riley Ridley, McCall Hardman, Terry Godwin, Isaac Nauta, the tight end. Then he also lost Elijah Holyfield, who was the number 2/1A running back with Swift, who had a big year, and the center. He lost his center, Giard, as well. So you can't take that away from anybody. It was the same with Sam Darnold and Josh Allen when they went into their final year in college. They had lost a lot of players around them. We talked about Jordan Love losing all his guys. Jake Fromm also lost all his guys, and that's why his numbers were down. And that's why people look at those stats and completion percentage, and they say, it isn't about accuracy. It's not about that. It wasn't about that with Allen coming out. It was about the talent around. Yes, he missed some throws, but it wasn't about that. You can't take all that talent away from a quarterback at that level and say, put up the same numbers. That's why Love should be, I think, I wouldn't say given a mulligan, but you got to take it in perspective. And the same thing with Jake Fromm at Georgia. Jake Fromm didn't all of a sudden become an inaccurate passer, because you look at that completion percentage and say, what happened? It was because his targets were gone, and Robertson, the transfer from Cal, didn't get it done to the level expected. It took a while for Pickens, the freshman, to get going, and Cager got hurt. So again, you can't have all that happen and expect the quarterback to be putting up these enormous numbers and these numbers that go wow. It's not going to happen.
All right, that's what I call intelligent football discussion. I think there's a reason why a guy like Mel Kiper is where he is and is a legend, and a guy like Todd McShay. They're able to acknowledge that something went wrong and flat out say he did not play that well this year. but also acknowledge how well he's played in the past and the cause and effect aspect of why he didn't play as well this season, right? So most fans out there get on YouTube or whatever, and they'll just be like, oh, Jake Fromm sucks, Cletus. His deltopectoral muscles are severely underdeveloped. Like, if you can't acknowledge that somebody would go from 30 touchdowns and 6 interceptions with 9 yards per attempt, right? 9 yards per completion, 67.3 completion percentage all the way down to 60.8 and 7.4 yards per completion. Like, come on. Like, what are you doing here? You're just being biased. There had to have been a cause and effect there. This man didn't all of a sudden not know how to play football, right? But you also have to acknowledge that he did not play that well. But is there a cause and effect scenario as to why? People who are neutral, coming from a neutral standpoint, would say yes. You heard what he said. He lost 95% of his receiving production in all of his touchdowns. So everyone who scored a touchdown for him last season was gone. McShay also acknowledged that if you really lab the tape, you can see the type of throws that this guy can complete, man. And some of his throws are amazing. I'll get to that at another time. If I've done it 50 million times, but I'll do it again for draft purposes here. But I think they also did him a disservice, though, by comparing him to Andy Dalton, right? I really actually like Andy Dalton. I've always liked Andy Dalton. But I think that Andy Dalton comes with a negative stigma to him right now, despite the fact that his career numbers are fantastic. His career numbers are fantastic playing for one of the, if not the worst franchise in the entire sport. You have to acknowledge this man played his entire career with the Cincinnati Bengals. And outside of A.J. Green, there's been a rotating cast of weapons and this and that. Sometimes you would say, man, he don't have no weapons outside of A.J. Green. And then you have the seasons where A.J. Green is hurt. And he still put up very respectable numbers. But you see coming out of here, you would have to think that, look at this. He ran a 4.87 40-yard dash, 6'2", 215 pounds. Very much in the same wheelhouse as Jake Fromm. I can definitely see the comparison there. And I actually like that comparison, right? But I think it comes with a negative stigma when there's another comparison that's out there that we'll talk about here in a second. But you see right there, he said his weaknesses was he's on the shorter side as a 3-quarter delivery, which will likely result in a lot of batted passes. Deeper throws will float at times when he does not set his feet. Played in a spread offense and will have to learn a pro-style system. Does not always feel pressure in the pocket, which nullifies his good mobility, right? So a lot of that doesn't have to do with Jake Fromm. He actually played in a pro-style system making pro-style throws, you know? He has very good pocket presence as well and not very mobile. Here's a guy that I think is a very apt comparison to both Dalton and Fromm, and he happens to play on a team with a damn near genius offensive coordinator / play caller in Kyle Shanahan with a wealth of weapons and also a great run game and a great defense. And you see where they're at right now. Not saying that they will win the Super Bowl, but they're in the Super Bowl with a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo. So a lot of people seem to think he's a lot more than what he really is. I sat here and I labbed this kid for the last couple of weeks, and I see everything very similar to Jake Fromm. I don't see anything that is, how would I say, something that's super dynamic that just jumps off the page at you, right? Good arm, good pocket awareness, good to great accuracy type, just very much like a Jake Fromm, right? So a lot of people like to put him in a different kind of class when they even said it in that interview, right? Or in on that podcast. They said that imagine Andy Dalton in a better system or a better franchise than the Cincinnati Bengals. This is exactly what he would be, in my opinion. Your man Jimmy Garoppolo ran a 4.97 40-yard dash. That's way worse than Andy Dalton did, right? 6'2", 226 pounds, built very similar to Jake Fromm, the same exact height, weight, everything. I would imagine probably same size hands, arm length, all that you could possibly think of, but he's thought of a little bit differently. Most of the guys in the NFL are going to be more like a Jimmy Garoppolo or an Andy Dalton opposed to whatever it is the other that people think is out there, right? You have guys like Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr and all these guys. These guys are going to be mainstays in the NFL because most of these guys in the NFL are still old school and they want to take care of the ball, and they know that you can win with guys like this if you surround them with the right supporting cast. So while Jake Fromm may not be a first-round talent per se, I think he's a potential first-round pick just for the fact that he is one of these guys, right? And he's 21 years old. He's coming out as a true junior. I don't think we've ever seen any of those guys that I just named not be fourth or fifth-year juniors, or I'm sorry, fifth-year seniors or fourth-year juniors coming out. He's a different animal. So I think that people need to really think about that when they make some of these comparisons, right? So the Andy Dalton is a great comparison, but it's the same exact comparison with Jimmy Garoppolo, but a lot more palpable. So let me know what you think about the discussion between Kiper and McShay, and also let me know how you believe Jake Fromm stacks up to guys like a Jimmy Garoppolo, Andy Dalton, Kirk Cousins, and these guys that we see all throughout the NFL, man. And, yeah, there you go. Intelligent football discussion, all right? That being said, though, you already know who it is. It's your boy Murph, the Underground King. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe, tell a friend, and tell a friend. Top Billing Sports, and I am out. Peace.